Welcome back. Today we are going to take a look at Hinduism and Buddhism. Hinduism and Buddhism were the two major religions that spread throughout East and Southeast Asia. We are going to start by taking a look at Hinduism. So, Hinduism is considered an ancient religion, meaning that it dates back hundreds of thousands of years. Within Hinduism, we have no single founder, which means that scholars cannot point to a single person that snapped their fingers and came up with the idea of Hinduism. Instead, Hinduism began to exist over thousands of years. Within Hinduism, we have our sacred scripture that are called the Vedas. The word Veda means knowledge in Sanskrit. The Vedas are similar to the Bible, right? It's the text or the book where people that practice Hinduism can go to figure out what they're supposed to do. The word Hindu actually comes from Persia, and Hinduism is also very tolerant of other religions, so therefore it can be found that can peacefully coexist with other religions throughout the world. So, within Hinduism, their one supreme god or spirit is called the Brahman. The Brahman creates, maintains, destroys, and recreates the universe. Okay. Also, within the Brahman, you have the Atman, and the Atman is the human soul. Everything, including the Atman, are part of the Brahman. So every single thing has a soul, and every single living being is considered to be part of the Brahman, or part of the one supreme god or being. So there's a quote that says, just like a drop of water in a great ocean, the Atman is both separate from and one with the Brahman. So souls can exist independently or individually, but collectively all together, they make up what we call the Brahman. There are multiple gods within Hinduism. Hindus can worship many gods, and all of the gods are part of the Brahman. Each god represents a different quality and different powers or different aspects of the Brahman. Some of the Hindu gods have very human-like qualities. Others have more altruistic ideas such as luck, success, or war. Each person or family may be devoted to one particular god in which they worship more frequently or pray to more frequently than other gods. Okay, so we're going to take a look at a couple of the more well-known gods in Hinduism. So Brahma is considered the creator god. Shiva is the destroyer. Vishnu is the preserver. Many of you may be familiar with this god because he's blue. So you see him a lot of places. Makes him unique. Okay, and then the Dharma means to hold or support. The Dharma is one's sacred duty or moral responsibility. And the Dharma is the system of rules in which Hindus live their everyday life. Okay, so the Dharma is kind of like how to be a good person, right? It's your moral code or your ethical code. An important universal value throughout Hinduism, an important value within the Dharma, is this idea of non-violence. Meaning you are going to conduct your life in a peaceful way without creating conflict with other people. And people's individual dharma or their code of ethics or their moral compass can be affected by their personality, by their age, by their gender, by their sex, and also by their class. So my personal dharma might be different than Mr. Starr's personal dharma or Mr. Moran's personal dharma, right? We're each unique individuals, but we each have a set of ethics or a moral code or a moral responsibility to be a good person. Okay, you've probably heard of karma before, right? Karma is the sum of one's good and bad actions of the Atman. So, are you a good person or are you not a good person? Throughout your life, the actions and the things that you do collect karma. If you do something positive, right? Maybe you hold the door open for an elderly woman when you go to the grocery store, and that'll build you positive karma. Let's say you cut somebody off in traffic. right? Or maybe it causes a car accident. That would build negative karma. And all of this karma continues to build up over your lifespan. When you die, your Atman or your soul leaves your body, okay? And it gets reborn into another body. That body is determined by the karma that your Atman or your soul has accumulated over your years. The more positive karma that you have, the likelihood that you will be born into a better standing body, right? Or a higher social status. The more negative karma that you have or you develop, the chances are you're going to be born into a lower class or a lower status. So the ratings in which you can be born into, the top one is a human, right? To be reborn as a human is a great thing. You're a good person, you had a good life. Then after that, you have an animal, so another living object. Right below that, you have plants, and then below that, you have an object. So if you were a really terrible human and you just built up tons of negative karma, let's say maybe you were like a mass murderer or something, your Atman or your soul could be reborn into something like a toilet. That would not be a very fun life. Okay, so speaking of rebirth, this whole process of life, death, and rebirth is called samsara. So samsara is a circular cycle in which the Atman or the soul continues to live, die, and be reborn over and over again. The ultimate goal is to reach moksha. Moksha is the release from this cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And in order to achieve moksha or to be released from the cycle to the point where you're not reborn again, you have to follow the path of the Dharma. Okay, you have to follow the moral and ethical code that is laid out for you. You have to have a balanced karma. You got to be a good person. You got to do good things. You need to worship the gods faithfully, and you need to follow the spiritual practices. This idea of achieving moksha and to be released from this constant cycle of birth, death, and rebirth takes a very long time. You likely won't be able to do it in one cycle, right? It accumulates all of the karma throughout one's Atman or throughout one's soul over a very long period of time. Okay, so we have probably heard of the caste system in India. Okay, the caste system within India was a way in which people were classified into different social groups. The caste system goes back to Hinduism in India. Okay, so within Hinduism, people are born into different social classes. And these are the hierarchies that exist. Okay, over here on the right-hand side, we have the modern form of the caste system, which has only recently been banned in India, right? So for a long time, this caste system existed. And then on the left-hand side, we have the ancient version of the caste system. So how people were classified. At the top of the caste system, so the highest social status, are the Brahmins. These are the priests. These are your religious leaders. Okay. Then after that, you have your kings and your warriors, the people that protect you. The next group are your cow herders. Then you have your peasants, and at the bottom of the caste system, you have a group that are called the untouchables. Okay. Within each caste system, people are not allowed to move up or down. So if you were born into the untouchable caste, you will die in the untouchable caste. The only way in which you can move up or down in the caste system is to accumulate enough positive or good karma in hope that your Atman or your soul would be reborn in a higher caste system. The original caste system was separated into two groups based on where people came from. Right, so you have a group of people that were called the Aryans, and they were considered to be the higher social status. Okay, so they made up the higher class versus the non-Aryan people. And this made up the lower social classes or the lower social status or the lower social system. We see this throughout history where religion or civilization or societies often compare two groups of people where one group of people, being their ancestors, are from a certain region, they speak a certain language, they look a certain way, are considered to be of higher social status compared to other people who are considered to be lower social status. Okay, so moving on to Buddhist beliefs. So remember, Hinduism and Buddhism coexist around the same period. So they're happening simultaneously. Okay, so Buddhism can be traced back to a man named Siddhartha. Siddhartha was born in 566 of noble Hindu birth. Okay, so he was a Hindu. He was born in the northern part of India, close to where Nepal is today, and he was a prince. His parents were very wealthy. So if we go back and look at a couple slides, he was born into the second highest class. Okay. And throughout his life, he lived a very sheltered life. His parents tried to protect him from all of the death and the suffering that was happening around him. One day, he's riding in his carriage and he got curious. He wanted to look out the window. And when he looked out the window, he saw a man dying on the side of the road. He stopped and asked his father, "Why is that man dying? Can we help him?" His father said, "No, he's of a lower class. This is part of life." And this led Siddhartha to feel a helplessness for the poor. He wanted to do something for them. He wanted to seek a way to end this continuous cycle of life and death. He didn't like being told that that was just that man's plan in life. He was born poor, he was going to die poor. There was no way to grow. Siddhartha didn't understand that. So he left his family and he went off on a mission to try to better understand the world around him. Okay? And while Siddhartha was off on his quest to seek to better understand the world, he discovers something that are called the Four Noble Truths. And he discovers this while meditating underneath a tree. And these Four Noble Truths become the four main pillars of Buddhism. The first one is that all life is full of suffering, pain, and sorrow. Each person will suffer, have pain, and reach sorrow at some point during their life. Number two, the cause of that suffering, pain, and sorrow is desire. Because people want things, they desire things, it leads to this pain and suffering. Okay, number three, the only way to cure or end that suffering is to overcome one's desire. The only way you're going to escape pain and suffering and sorrow is to no longer want things. Number four, the way to overcome that desire is to follow the Eightfold Path. So the only way you're going to do that is to follow these 8 steps. And the Eightfold Path is to have the right views, aspirations, speech, conduct, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and contemplation. So the goal within Buddhism and what Siddhartha achieves is union with the universe. He breaks that cycle of life, death, and rebirth, and he achieves what he calls nirvana. Okay? So in Hinduism, breaking that cycle is moksha. In Buddhism, breaking that cycle is called nirvana. They're basically the same thing. It's to no longer live within that continuous cycle of life, death, and rebirth. So the focus of Buddhism is enlightenment by understanding the Four Noble Truths, right? That's that all pain and suffering comes from desire, and the only way to end that pain and suffering is to overcome desire. And to do that, you need to live the Eightfold Path. So living a good, decent, peaceful, non-materialistic life and practicing meditation are all part of what encompasses Buddhism. What Siddhartha also saw in Buddhism, or believed, was that the caste system, right, that social status, that social hierarchy that existed within Hinduism should not exist, right? So he rejected the caste system. He said it doesn't matter what social level you are born into. Everybody has the ability to reach nirvana. Everybody has the ability to break away from this cycle. He rejected the rituals, the priests, and also the many gods of Hinduism. So what Siddhartha continues to focus on with Buddhism is one's own relationship with the world around them, right? So it's really an individualized religion. And when Siddhartha achieves nirvana, right, when he achieves this enlightenment, he transforms into the Buddha. So, talking about the Buddha, oftentimes people see two different versions of the Buddha. Okay, this lower version, right, this is the one that we are talking about today. That's Siddhartha. So after he reaches nirvana and achieves enlightenment, he becomes the Buddha. The second Buddha is often called the fat, happy Buddha, right? And the fat, happy Buddha is found more often in Eastern Asia, so like in China, where it was modeled after a Chinese Zen monk or healer. Okay? And part of the fat, happy Buddha is to rub the belly, which is one's spiritual center and source of power. So by rubbing the belly, it is thought to bring you good luck. And it is as close to achieving Buddha nature as most of us will get. So just be aware, moving forward, there are kind of two different types of Buddhism that emerge. Today, what we are going to focus on is the more Central Asia form of Buddhism. And that's the one where you have Siddhartha here, who transforms into the Buddha. Okay, so that's going to wrap up our notes for today. What your assignment is going to be is to go back and look through these notes, rewatch the video, and complete this compare and contrast. Okay, what is similar? What is different about Hinduism and Buddhism? Okay, I will give you a head start. Something that you can put under both, right, is that the goal of the religion is to end or break the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Okay, so to break the cycle of life, death, and rebirth is something that both have in common. Something that is different is that in Hinduism, that process is called moksha, and in Buddhism, that process is called nirvana. So again, you're going to go back through your notes, take a look at the stuff, and fill out this compare and contrast about what is the same versus what is different between the two religions.